Hi kids, welcome back. This is a bonus video that I wanted to squeeze something else in between the regularly programmed stuff. As the title suggests, what's next for the MCU? Now, the Avengers Doomsday hype is ramping up for an 18th of December release date this year, 2 days before my birthday, by the way. And even back when the MCU started in, I think, 2008 with Iron Man, you could kind of make an argument for the MCU starting with Blade or X-Men, although they weren't strictly Marvel Studios films. But even when it started, I thought at some point we're going to get to a point where they've used up all the big heroes and they'll run out of heroes. They'll run out of steam. Marvel has hundreds of superheroes, as has DC. Unfortunately, not all of them are well known. So I've compiled a list of heroes that we haven't really seen in the MCU. There's a couple of sort of exceptions and quid pro quos and blah, blah, blahs. But, you know, with the big hitters already well used, the Captain Americas, your Iron Mans, your Thors and Spider-Mans and Hulks, you start getting lower and lower in the list of popularity. Now, I will say, Iron Man himself was not a big hero before the movie. He was a kind of a C-list celeb. The only reason they went with Iron Man first is because the rights for all the other characters were elsewhere. Spider-Man was with Sony. Hulk was with, is it Universal? I can't remember. Anyway, it took a while to negotiate to get these characters back, which is why they went with Iron Man and Blade, etc. Now, what's next for the MCU? Obviously, they're throwing everything they can into Avengers Doomsday and after that, Secret Wars. But what are they going to do next? I've compiled a little list here of heroes that either people have not heard of or we haven't seen in the MCU. In no particular order. The one character everyone talks about, who is a Marvel fan, I guess, not of the movies but of the comics, is Nova. Richard Rider character. We've seen the Nova Corps in the Guardians of the Galaxy films. By the way, Guardians of the Galaxy were a very risky movie for James Gunn and the MCU, but he managed to show that, you know, I'm 57 this year. I've never read I've never heard of Guardians of the Galaxy. I've heard of Star-Lord, definitely, but not the rest of the Guardians. So that was a risk for Marvel, and it paid off big time, you know, with 3 movies and whatever. But the Nova Corps is mentioned a lot in Guardians of the Galaxy, and Richard Rider is a guy from Earth who becomes Nova, which is part of the Nova Corps. So he's been a very popular hero that we haven't seen yet. Not at all. So that's interesting. Blade, obviously, very popular character, like with Wesley Snipes. So much talk about him with coming back with Mahershala Ali. It's on, it's off, it's on, it's off again, it's scrapped, it's rewritten, it's on, it's off. Mahershala Ali's out, then he's back in again. Last thing we heard is that it may be actually happening now with Mahershala Ali finally going, okay, are we going to do this or not? And obviously we have seen Wesley Snipes reprise the role in the recent Deadpool movie, which was Deadpool and Wolverine. It was nice to see Wesley back in that role. The X-Men, and again, talking of Wolverine, have not had their MCU debut. They've been in Fox movies, but are they going to recast all the X-Men? Well, we're going to see quite a lot of the past X-Men, Patrick Stewart, James Marsden as Cyclops, etc., in Doomsday and probably Secret Wars. But are they going to wipe the slate clean and give us a whole new cast of X-Men? I think they should. Machine Man. Everyone's like, who? I think the guy's name was something Stack. It wasn't Robert Stack, he's an actor. Anyway, his name will come up here. But Machine Man was basically a robot. He's the kind of Marvel's Inspector Gadget, but he made his debut way back in the very early 70s in the 2001 A Space Odyssey stories that Marvel kind of had weird artistic license to write, and Machine Man became this sort of tortured hero. I really like Machine Man. It'd be nice to see him. Miles Morales, Spider-Gwen, and Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman. Now, we've seen plenty of Miles Morales in the animated Spider-Verse, and they've been sort of hinting that he might make an appearance in the Tobey Maguire, you know what I mean, the other guy, Tom Holland. I'm not a big fan of Miles Morales. And before you get on the thing, it's not a race thing. It's the fact that he's essentially Spider-Man redone. Spider-Gwen, never read any of her comics, but it's like, what if Spider-Man was a girl? And even going back further than that, Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman. What if Spider-Man was a girl? You know, but I did watch a lot of the Spider-Woman cartoons that were on TV, and I thought of all of these aforementioned Spider characters, Jessica Drew needs to be done. There was talk of Olivia Wilde from Tron Legacy, either directing, producing, or playing Jessica Drew in an upcoming Marvel movie, but it didn't really happen. And after the success of Madam Web, maybe that's not happening anymore. Beta Ray Bill, very, very weird character. I don't think I've ever read any comics with him in it. He's essentially an alien Thor who looks very odd, looks like a camel. His face made a brief appearance in one of the Thor movies as a statue, but everyone's like, a lot of people are very fond of him. I could say I don't know very much about him other than he's an alien Thor. Daredevil. Now, everyone knows who Daredevil is by now. Charlie Cox, in his iteration, you know, years after Ben Affleck tried it, really knocked it out the park. Very few people can imagine anyone else as Daredevil now after Charlie Cox's amazing portrayal. You know, as Matt Murdock, as a blind guy, as a lawyer, and as Daredevil himself, and the amount of work, you know, Charlie Cox puts into the role. Surely he should be given a movie of his own. That would put bums on seats. You don't have to spend a lot. I mean, they've proved that they can do Daredevil on a TV budget. Just give us a feature film. But who's he going to face, though? And Daredevil, you know, he's got the Hand in a bunch of ninjas as villains, and he's got kind of... he's kind of faced everyone, you know, Kingpin, etc. But Kingpin started off as a Spider-Man bad guy. Maybe we should get the Daredevil a couple more villains. Sentry. Sentry was seen in Thunderbolts, played by Bill Pullman's son, whose name escapes me. Interesting character, sort of troubled and quite scary in his powers, but he was a hero, so maybe he'll make a comeback. Maybe he should have a movie of his own. I don't know. What do you think? Rom, the Space Knight. Another one of Marvel's, hey, this is a popular toy, let's make a comic out of it. Rom is a very weird looking boxy character. Looks a bit like a Cylon and a toaster. But can we do anything with it? It may be interesting. I think Rom is quite beloved by most Marvel fans, and a lot of people would like to see, much like Guardians, it's a bit of a risk, but you know, you don't have to spend 300 million on a movie, Russo's. Just, you know, give him a $90 million movie and see what we can do with Rom the Space Knight. Talking of toys that Marvel Comics took on board, the Micronauts. Micronauts were a bunch of toys that you could, little men, and you could put them together into spaceships and you could rejig them into a different spaceships. This was before Transformers. And Micronauts has a really big sort of universe connected called the Microverse. And a lot of people have been waiting for the Micronauts to make their debut. I think you can get a lot of mileage out of Micronauts movies. If you can get them right in the first movie, you could probably get a good franchise out of that, you know, at least a trilogy. Be nice to see some Micronauts stuff. You know, it'd probably be mostly CGI, but at the same time, it would look really good, and you could get some, you know, top-level voices. I would rather voice actors as opposed to actors doing their voices, because I'm a big fan of voice actors who have versatility and range. Get off the soapbox, Terry. Grey Hulk. We've seen Red Hulk, we've seen Green Hulk, we've seen Professor Hulk, and rumours are we're going to see Savage Hulk in Doomsday. But Grey Hulk, comes way back from the very early days of Hulk, when before Stanley, before they chose to make Hulk green because of printing processes, Stanley thought, well, he's just going to be grey. But they've since brought him back as a separate character, in different stages of Bruce Banner's life. And Grey Hulk, in a very Jack Kirby flat top style, might be interesting. But Hulk, not popular at the moment, and hasn't had his own movie yet, even though Mark Ruffalo has constantly said he's got good ideas and wants to do a solo Hulk movie in the MCU, and he hasn't got one. I know there were movies before that, and technically the Incredible Hulk movie with Ed Norton is kind of in the MCU, especially as Tony Stark turns up in the post-credit sequence. Yeah, I think that was a one-off. Who have we got next? Quasar. I have never heard of Quasar. I looked up some of the characters that haven't been used, and Quasar is played by the alter ego is a human called Wendell Vaughn, and he looks very much like Captain Marvel, but apparently instead of this powerful, aloof god type person, he's a down-to-earth human who's got these powers of these sort of universal bands or something. Probably needs a redesign now because he looks too similar to Warlock or Captain Marvel, etc. But maybe Quasar could be brought out of obscurity. Firestar, female character with the power of flames, not unlike the Human Torch, but she was seen, as far as I'm aware, I may be wrong about this, but I first saw her in the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends cartoon, which involved Spidey, Iceman and Firestar. I may be wrong in this, but I'm led to believe, or I tend to believe, that Firestar was invented just for that cartoon because they couldn't get the Human Torch because of rights of the Fantastic Four being split over different companies. So they said, well, let's use a fire character where we'll invent a female fire character called Firestar. So, they can do Human Torch. Let's see maybe where they could do Firestar. Goodness knows we need more female superheroes. I think we do. Not just female versions of male superheroes like Captain Carter and blah, 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 and Captain Marvel. Let's see some genuine female superheroes. Squirrel Girl. One of Marvel's crazier ideas. There was talk of this movie being made recently, and then it stopped. I think it was going to be a TV series on Disney+. Squirrel Girl is a kind of Dr. Dolittle type character. Obviously, probably for a younger audience, very comedic, I imagine. But who knows, maybe she'll turn up. Marvel have got to start thinking outside the box. I have mentioned everyone in my list. There's my list. So, are Marvel going to run out of steam, or are they just going to keep reinventing their same old characters? We've had 2 Captain Americas. We've had Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doctor Doom. Whether he's going to take the mask off or not, I think he will. But will he be connected to Tony Stark in a multiversal way? We've had 2 versions of the Fantastic Four, although the previous trilogy of Fantastic Four movies, was it a trilogy? Or was it 2? It was 2. With Ioan Gruffudd, Michael Chiklis, Jessica Alba, and Chris Evans in the Tim Story movies, which I really, really like. Are they perfect? No. But then what movie is? I still like that lineup, that original Fox lineup of Fantastic Four, better than the one we've currently got. I know that's probably a hot take, but I do like them. So are they going to run out of steam? Are they going to just keep recasting the X-Men and give us another Captain America and another Hulk, or, that kind of thing? How would you like to see a Micronauts trilogy, a Daredevil movie, a Quasar movie, a Rom the Space Knight movie, all the kind of things I've just talked about? Let me know in the comments. And yes, I may have been wrong in some of my facts. I'm just doing this from the top of me dome. So I may have made mistakes. Feel free to correct me, but don't be a dick about it. So after Secret Wars, what do you think is going to happen? What are we going to see on TV? What are we going to see in the cinema? More importantly, what's going to drive the MCU forward? If Doomsday does make a lot of money, and by the way, Reports are saying it's costing 300 million. So they've got to make $1.5 billion just to break even before they start making profits. Fortunately, I'm not in agreement with this. Robert Downey Jr. is, for Doomsday and Secret Wars, is getting paid a reported $100 million. I love Robert Downey Jr. I think he's awesome. And he works really hard on every film he's done. But I don't know how much he got paid for Chaplin. Maybe I'll put it down there. He worked really hard on Chaplin, really hard. And I think he works equally hard on all his movies, Oppenheimer, whatever. But $100 million or $50 million per movie for 2 movies, that's about 12 weeks' work. I think that's a bit of a price tag. And the problem is that pushes up the prices for you and me in the cinema. And also, the movie will be seen as a flop if it doesn't make its money back, even though it could make $1 billion, and that would still be a flop because it needs $1.5 billion to break even before it makes any profit. I think movies should be capped a bit more, and with that, actors. Sorry, went on a bit of a soapbox again there. Love Robert Downey Jr. though, gotta be said. So let's have a little discussion about the MCU. And like I always say, this is a place for niceness. Don't start any arguments with anyone else in the comments. Say your piece, be nice, and we'll all get along smashingly. Okay? Take care now. Bye-bye then. Oh yeah, computer, close the doors.